In your 20s, wealth feels like something distant, almost mythical, like a destination reserved for people who already have money, connections, or some kind of secret advantage. You look around and see others posting their wins, buying things, traveling, living fast, and it creates this quiet pressure in your mind that you should be doing the same. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid saying out loud: your 20s are not for looking rich, they are for becoming rich. And those two paths are completely different. One drains you slowly while making you look successful for a moment, the other builds you quietly until one day your life speaks for itself. Building wealth from scratch in your 20s is less about luck and more about understanding a few principles deeply and sticking to them while everyone else is distracted. The first thing you need to accept is that wealth is not built through one big move. It is built through a series of small, consistent decisions that compound over time. This idea sounds simple, almost too simple, which is why most people ignore it. They want the breakthrough, the viral moment, the one investment that changes everything overnight. But real wealth behaves differently. It grows slowly at first, almost invisibly, and then accelerates once the foundation is strong. If you can train yourself to respect slow growth in a fast world, you've already separated yourself from the majority. Income is your starting point, and without it, nothing else works. You cannot invest, you cannot save, and you cannot build assets if money isn't coming in. So your first mission in your 20s is not just to get a job, but to maximize your ability to earn. That means building skills that are valuable in the marketplace. Not just degrees or certifications, but real, practical skills that solve problems for people or businesses. Skills like writing, coding, video editing, marketing, sales, design, or anything that can be monetized direct. The more valuable your skill, the more leverage you have over your income. And the earlier you focus on this, the faster everything else starts to fall into place. At the same time, you need to understand that not all income is equal. There is active income, where you trade your time for money, and then there is leveraged or passive income, where your effort continues to pay you even after the work is done. In your 20s, you will mostly rely on active income, and that's completely fine. But you should always be thinking about how to convert that into something more scalable over time. Maybe that's starting a small online business, building a YouTube channel, creating digital products, investing in stocks, or even learning how to run ads and scale a service. The idea is to plant seeds that can grow without requiring your constant presence. Now, while you're working on increasing your income, there's something equally important happening in the background: your spending habits. This is where most people quietly sabotage their future. As soon as they start earning, they start upgrading their lifestyle. Better phone, better clothes, more outings, more subscriptions, more everything. It feels harmless at first, even deserved. But what's really happening is lifestyle inflation. Your expenses rise as fast as your income, leaving you stuck in the same place financially. The discipline to control your lifestyle in your 20s is one of the most powerful advantages you can have. This doesn't mean you should live miserably or deprive yourself of every joy. It means you should be intentional. Spend on what truly matters to you, but cut ruthlessly on what doesn't. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is where your wealth is born. That gap is what allows you to save and invest. And if there is no gap, there is no progress, no matter how much you make. Saving money is often misunderstood as the end goal, but in reality, it's just the beginning. Saving gives you stability and options, but investing is what actually builds wealth. Money sitting in a bank account slowly loses value due to inflation. Money invested in the right places has the potential to grow. The earlier you start investing, the more time your money has to compound. And compounding is one of the most powerful forces in finance. It's the process where your returns start generating their own returns, creating a snowball effect over time. Imagine investing a small amount consistently every month. At first, the growth seems insignificant. But as the years pass, the curve starts to bend upward. What felt slow becomes unstoppable. This is why starting early matters more than starting big. Even small amounts, invested consistently, can turn into something significant if given enough time. In fact, trying to do that often leads to mistakes. A simple, consistent approach works best for most people. Investing in broad market index funds, for example, allows you to benefit from the overall growth of the economy without needing to pick individual winners. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, but it works. And wealth building is not about excitement, it's about results. Another critical element in your 20s is risk. This is the time in your life when you can afford to take calculated risks. You have fewer responsibilities, fewer financial obligations, and more time to recover if things don't go as planned. This is the period to experiment, to try different paths, to start projects, to fail, and to learn. Playing it too safe in your 20s can cost you more than taking a few well-thought-out risks. That said, there is a difference between risk and recklessness. Risk is informed and intentional. Recklessness is impulsive and emotional. Building wealth requires you to develop the ability to make decisions based on logic rather than short-term feelings. This applies not only to investing but to your career choices, business decisions, and spending habits. Your environment also plays a bigger role than you might think. The people you surround yourself with influence your mindset, your habits, and your expectations. If you're constantly around people who prioritize short-term pleasure over long-term growth, it becomes harder to stay disciplined. On the other hand, being around people who are focused, driven, and financially aware can elevate your thinking and push you to do better. You don't need a large circle, but you do need the right one. In today's digital world, you also have access to an unprecedented amount of information. You can learn almost anything online, often for free or at a low cost. This is a massive advantage if you use it correctly. Instead of scrolling endlessly through content that entertains but doesn't educate, you can invest your time in learning skills, understanding markets, studying successful people, and improving your mindset. The knowledge you acquire in your 20s can pay dividends for decades. Another overlooked aspect of building wealth is your relationship with debt. Not all debt is bad, but in your 20s, it's important to be cautious. High-interest consumer debt, like credit cards, can quickly trap you in a cycle that's hard to escape. It eats into your income, limits your ability to invest, and adds unnecessary stress. If you have debt, make it a priority to pay it off as quickly as possible. Freeing yourself from that burden gives you more control over your financial future. On the other hand, there is such a thing as strategic debt, used to invest in assets that have the potential to generate returns. But this requires knowledge, discipline, and a clear plan. It's not something to jump into blindly. The key is to understand the difference and avoid letting debt control your life. Consistency is perhaps the most underrated trait when it comes to building wealth. It's not about what you do once, it's about what you do repeatedly. Showing up, saving regularly, investing consistently, improving your skills day by day, these actions may seem small individually, but together they create momentum. And momentum, over time, leads to results that feel almost disproportionate to the effort you put in. There will be moments when progress feels slow, when it seems like nothing is changing, when you question whether it's worth it. This is where most people quit. They stop just before things start to compound. If you can push through these phases and stay committed to the process, you give yourself a chance to experience the long-term rewards. It's also important to define what wealth means to you personally. For some, it's financial freedom, the ability to live without worrying about money. For others, it's the flexibility to pursue passions, spend time with family, or travel. If you don't define it, you might end up chasing a version of success that doesn't actually make you happy. Wealth is not just about numbers in a bank account, it's about the life those numbers allow you to live. In your 20s, time is your greatest asset. It's more valuable than money, more valuable than any single opportunity. How you use your time will determine the direction of your life. Every hour spent learning, building, or improving is an investment in your future. Every hour wasted on things that don't matter is an opportunity lost. This doesn't mean you should never relax or enjoy yourself, but it does mean you should be aware of how you're spending your time. Building wealth from scratch is not easy, and it's not supposed to be. It requires discipline, patience, and a willingness to delay gratification. It requires you to go against the grain, to make choices that others might not understand in the moment. But the reward is not just financial. It's the sense of control, the freedom, and the confidence that comes from knowing you built something meaningful from nothing. As you move through your 20s, your priorities may shift, your goals may evolve, and your path may change. That's completely normal. What matters is that you keep moving forward, that you keep learning, and that you stay committed to the principles that build wealth over time. Because at the end of the day, wealth is not about where you start, it's about the decisions you make consistently, even when no one is watching.